Not relevant to the video at all, but I've grown a tash because when better time to experiment than during lockdown, eh? Let me know what you think. Anyway, today's video is going to be gym advice for teenagers. Now, this isn't all my own work. This is going to be a video based on another video that I have found on the internet. So, you see loads of videos out there with people saying things like, the mistakes that I made when I was a newbie in the gym, or things I wish I knew when I first started out in the gym. Someone's cutting their lawn, which doesn't help. And that is great, but it's only specific for that person who has, you know, made those mistakes. Then I come across a video from someone called Mike Thurston. Now, he's done a video on gym advice for teenagers. And I think it's a great video, but what I wanted to do is go into it in a little bit more detail because I think we can elaborate on it a little bit more and hopefully make it more helpful. So in the video, he basically trains and interviews a 16-year-old lad to understand the problems that he's having with training and building muscle, and then he tries to offer some advice in return. So I do want to start by saying that I agree 100% with the advice that Mike gives in the video. In fact, I think he's one of the very few influencers that offers some really good advice, because there is a load of BS out there. But I do think that the advice he gives is very, very good. If you haven't seen the video, I will put a link to it in the description below. Maybe go and watch it before you watch this, or maybe watch this first and then go and watch that. It's entirely up to you, but it will be in the description. So one thing that he mentioned in the video is about form over the weight that you're moving. Now, I agree with him 100% on this, that you should be more concerned about the form of the exercise and the way you perform the exercise rather than the actual weight you're moving. Now, what I can't do is go through every single exercise because that would just take too long. You'd get bored, I'd get bored, and we would get nowhere. But what I can do is I can give you some great resources, however you want to say that word, and I can give you some good pointers to hopefully provide a bit of help and guidance to get you started. So first of all, if it hurts, stop doing it. So many people I see doing exercises because they've been told that it's the best way to build a certain muscle, and that is simply not true. Everybody is different. You have different bone sizes, different levels of flexibility, different muscle attachments, different strengths. All these different things mean that there is 101 different ways to achieve a certain goal, and what your job to do is find the one that is best for you. So my advice would be to find several exercises for targeting the muscle that you are looking to grow, and try them out and see which ones work for you, because what works for you might not necessarily work for somebody else, and vice versa. When I say which one works best for you, I mean which one doesn't cause you pain and which one you feel the muscle working the most. As I said, I was going to help with some resources from this, so someone who I think is very knowledgeable and gives great advice on form when doing exercises is someone called Nippard, a YouTuber. I'll put his channel in the description below, and I thoroughly recommend you go and check him out. So staying on the subject of form, I want to talk to you about what Mike mentions by leaving your ego out of it and not just lifting ridiculously heavy weights. Now, there are many reasons why just lifting heavy weights isn't a good idea to start off with. The main reason, staying on this subject, is form. If you're lifting heavier weights, your body's going to do all it can in order to try and move it, so you're going to sort of wiggle and do whatever it takes, maybe cheat on the rep and all that sort of thing to try and move it, and that is just going to promote bad habits, and you will be likely to injure yourself. The other thing is that lifting bigger and heavier weights isn't necessarily going to mean bigger and stronger muscles. I know many people that are lifting a fairly decent amount of weight, but because they're not putting their muscle under enough stress for a long enough period of time, i.e. 3 sets of 10 reps, they are not seeing the hypertrophy effect, so the muscle building effect. They are getting stronger, but they are not getting bigger, and I'm assuming, I could be wrong, but I'm assuming that the goal for most teenagers is to get bigger and therefore better looking. So my advice would be to train progressively. warm yourself up. Don't go in with the heaviest weight that you can do to start off with, because what will happen is you'll end up getting yourself injured, and if you're injured, you can't train. If you can't train, you can't get bigger muscles. If you can't get bigger muscles, you can't get better looking. If you can't get better looking, then no girl's going to fancy you. You're going to be single forever, and then you're going to live at home with a cat by yourself. Just be a little bit sensible about it, because if you're not injuring yourself right now, you may be causing long-term problems, and then, you know, when you're coming into your peak sort of mid to late 20s, you're going to struggle. So just use your noggin. So the next thing that I want to talk about, which Mike skims over ever so slightly, is alcohol consumption with training. Now, this video is targeted towards 16 to 19 year olds. Now I know that 16 and 17 year olds shouldn't be drinking, but you probably will be. So this probably applies to you as well. So what he says in the video is to reduce your alcohol consumption, basically. So drink less, because the more you drink, the slower your progress will be, which is entirely true. But I just wanted to elaborate a little bit more on it to give some advice, because realistically, lowering or removing your alcohol consumption when you're a teenager, and especially if you're a student, it's not possible. It's not really sustainable either. So what I wanted to do is give a little bit more advice maybe as to how you can be a bit smarter with your drinking so that you can still make progress. So firstly, I would recommend that you know the calories that are in your drinks. Now, being teenagers, I would imagine that putting on weight is actually something that is difficult and not the opposite. So you can have a high amount of calories and not have to worry too much about putting on weight, hence why it is actually quite difficult as a teenager to put on weight and build up and build muscle. So I wouldn't necessarily worry too much about it, but it is also good to be aware of it. So a good rule of thumb when it comes to alcohol is that if the alcohol is clear, i.e. vodka or gin or whatever, then it is likely to be low in calories, and vice versa. If it's coloured, then it's probably higher in calories. But you can easily find the calories in your drinks by just going online or whatever, you know, Googling it. It's going to be dead easy to find the calories that are in your drinks. So just be aware of it as to how many you're having when you're out, so that you can try and keep yourself on track as much as possible. The other thing is the mixes that you're using. So be aware, as you all know, there are diet versions of majority of fizzy drinks. So if you need to, use them. Yeah. So my other advice around drinking and your big night out is to make sure that you eat in and around your heavy drinking session. It's going to help with actually not getting too drunk, and also it means that you can get the level of protein in that you're going to need. On a night out when you're having a lot to drink, you're probably burning a lot of calories, and as a teenager you're getting through calories pretty quick anyway, so you need to keep your calories quite high in order to see results and build muscle. So make sure that you're having plenty of food and plenty of protein to help with your continuous muscle growth. The other thing to do is to make sure that you're having plenty of water. The idea is that you want to avoid a hangover as best you can, because you don't want a big night out to affect the next day and the next day and the next day training because you've had a big heavy night out. You want to have your night out and go out and enjoy yourself, but you then want to be able to get straight back on the training and the nutrition and the plan and everything the following day. If it puts you out for a couple of days, then it's going to probably reverse all the hard work you've done for a week even. So try to avoid a hangover, because that is really going to stunt your progress. Now, Mike also makes a very, very good point about comparing yourself to other fitness YouTubers and Instagram influencers and all that sort of thing. And what he basically says is that those people have probably been training for many, many years and will be very advanced when it comes to training compared to a teenager who is most likely just starting out. So you're not doing a fair comparison, so don't worry too much about what they're doing and focus more on what you're doing. And I want to just echo that, because I agree 100% with that. Just try to improve yourself from yesterday rather than somebody else, because you have no control over what somebody else is doing. You don't know what they're taking even, possibly, and you also don't know anything really. So just make sure that you're focusing on yourself and just try to improve yourself. So the next part is very, very important subject, which is meal prep and the cost of it. Now, one thing to mention, to make sure you are fully aware, is that building muscle is definitely very heavily weighted on your diet. If you have a bad diet, you're never ever going to make any real progress. So your diet is very important, and the quicker you understand that, the quicker you'll start to see results. So in the video, the lad that Mike interviews, he says that his parents are still paying for his meals, and although they're paying for them, he prepares the meals himself, which is a great scenario to be in. If you are in that scenario, do not take that for granted, because it is unbelievable. But I don't think meal prep is actually the problem. Meal prep is just a case of doing it. Once you know obviously what you should be eating, meal prep is just a case of cooking it and making sure that you are prepared. But what I do think the issue is for some teenagers is the cost of it. Especially if you're a student, you have to penny pinch where you can and weigh up what you should and shouldn't be paying for, etc, etc. And therefore looking at having to consume a large amount of food to build muscle can be daunting, and maybe you struggle. So what I do want to say is that you can buy all the food that you need and have plenty of it to put on muscle for a very small amount. I personally, for my bulking diet, I'm able to go and do a full weekly shop for under £40. So I think even as a student, you should be able to afford that. Maybe just have a few less drinks on a night out or something like that. So I do think that it is more than achievable. And Mike himself does do a video on how he can do, I think it's a full day's meal prep in under, I don't know what it is, under 15 minutes or something. A really short period of time. So time, not a problem at all. And also cost, I personally have done it, you know, under £40. And there's a guy called Joe Delaney who does a full video, and I think he prepares 10 meals for under £20. So both Mike's video and Joe's video I will put in the description below. I do thoroughly recommend you go check those out, because they will be really helpful. Now my final point before I end is when Mike refers to getting plenty of sleep in his video. Now when it comes to building muscle, there are three major components, which is nutrition, your training, and then rest. All three need equal importance in order for you to get results. So obviously sleep falls into the rest category. Now there are so much research and all this sort of thing as to how much sleep you should get, and there are so many different variables that there isn't a defined number of hours that you should be having in order to get sleep, and it depends on your age, your gender, your schedule, all these sorts of things. But what I do see very often is that going to bed at the same time and getting up at the same time is a very healthy way to do things. So however many hours you feel like you need, try to set yourself some sort of schedule so you're going to bed at the same time and getting up at the same time, and you should be onto a good thing. So I do want to end by saying that building muscle is just like any other journey. Do not be afraid to make mistakes. You will make mistakes, and just learn from them, just like with anything else. Don't always try and find the shortcuts and the quickest and easiest option, because you are going to have to put some time and effort into doing this, and it's going to require some dedication and persistence. So be prepared for that and enjoy the process, enjoy the journey, and hopefully, like me, you'll learn to love it. So that is the end of the video. Hopefully I have been able to provide a little bit more detail onto what I think was already a very good video by Mike, but hopefully you now have a little bit more information to get started and to improve what you're already doing. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't done so already and you think I have earned it, please subscribe to the channel. It doesn't cost you anything. It is completely free. It just supports me and what I'm doing. So thank you very much again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.